Hi folks, Dave, the Honest Audiophile. This is the Lav Audio DS100, and these are my Honest Audiophile impressions. I want to thank Lav Audio 1Me for providing the DS100 for review. Do greatly appreciate it. Lav Audio and 1Me, you rock. Alright, so the DS100, it's a portable DAC headphone amplifier. Connects via USB C and also Lightning. Comes in this very simple box. And when you pull it all out, if you can get it all out, you get a very nice presentation that's extremely simple. You get a very, very limited manual. Set that to the side here. And then you get your DS100. And then opening up your accessory box, you get two connectors. You get a Lightning to USB-C, and then USB-C to USB-C. Nothing too extravagant, but very nice that 1Me included that. And then you get the device. Very small. Has some stickering on it. Says Lav Audio on the bottom. PCM DSD up top. Plus, minus, play, pause. And it's just a little simple up and down tap button for controls. There's your USB-C in. And there's your 3.5 output. The DS100 includes a Cirrus Logic CS43198 DAC chip, and it will decode iOS, Android, and PC. On iOS, it'll do upwards of DSD 64-128, and it'll do 1644 to 32-bit 192. And then on Android, it'll do 1644-1 to 384 32-bit, and it'll do DSD all the way up to 256. And then on PCM, it'll do the same as Android. So it's got a good amount of bit rates covered, and your whole library should have no problems sounding quality off of the DS100. It has a dynamic range of 118 dB and an SNR of 131 dB, and has output impedance of 0.15 ohms. Output amplitude is 2 VRMS, and then the headphone output power at 16 ohms is 156 milliwatts, and then at 32 ohms is 87.5 milliwatts. So it's not the most powerful, but for the size of it, it's very portable. So you just take your device. Let's pick up the USB-C to USB-C, connect it, and then you would connect that end into your PC or Android device. If you use Android, make sure that you have your OTG settings enabled, and also that it'll debug, and it will just run. It's a quick, easy plug and play. As far as with PC, it's also plug and play. You will have to download a driver. And then iOS, I do not know because I did not use iOS. It is a little limited on power, but I found that it played everything straight out of the DS100. It played with the Katos, and it played very well with the CTM DaVinci 10s. With the TINHIFI P1 Max and the Shure S12s, it was a little pickier and a little harder to drive, but it did play them. They just didn't sound like they were being played optimal. And then it also played the Thea Audio Elixirs very well. So with power, I was like, I wish I had a little bit more. But you can use something like a Topping NX7, where you just take your dongle and you go 3.5 in to the NX7, and then you can put your headphone out. And of course, the NX7 is a very powerful little amplifier. You have 3.5 out or 4.4, and you have multiple gain settings. And I found that this just took the DS100 to a whole new level and doesn't take up much space. So that is the easiest solution to get more power out of your DS100. But you're like probably wondering, why would Dave want me to get a Lav Audio DS100 for all my different IEMs? Well, you can use it on the go and it doesn't take up much space. I found that the buttons really didn't get pushed around if put in a pocket. And if it's sitting on a desk there or a table or right beside you, it's not going to take up space whatsoever. It's extremely light. It only weighs 128 grams. And so it's very portable, does not require a battery, and it has enough power for the majority of IEMs. Headphone wise, not so much. But that's not the only reason why you would get the DS100. It also sounds fantastic. It has that Sirius Logic CS 543198. I'm sorry, CS43198, not no 5, put into it, and it outputs a just lovely sound signature. It's very neutral and it's very clean, and it is a very natural sounding DAC amp. Something that you don't get a whole lot in this price point of $60. A lot of times the DAC amps will have a very warm, lush sound, and this is a very clean, neutral sound. And so if you're looking for a reference type of sound, the Lav Audio DS100 is going to give you that. It has nice, clean details, very good tone and timbre, and a very good sense of separation, isolation of instruments. I find that the DS100 is extremely close to a lot of the other reference gear that I use when it comes to dongles. And bass is nice and punchy, has good details, good resolution, and as I said, tone and timbre is very good. Mids are very balanced, cohesive. You have nice detail retrieval, resolution, and then the treble is extended, has good airiness to it, but yet also at the same time isn't going to shred your ears and just absolutely destroy them because of harshness, unless that's in the tracks themselves. Soundstage is nice and wide, has good depth and layering capabilities. It's a very competent DAC amp. The only real complaint to it that I have is that it is a little bit weak sauce when it comes to power. But again, you can use a Topping NX7. So how does it compare to these other dongles that are sitting down here? Now, my go-to dongle is this right here, and that's the Periodic Audio Rhodium. And when I first put the DS100 in my ears, I was like, wow, this sounds really close to the Periodic Audio Rhodium. And it does. But the Rhodium does something a little bit different, and that is it has a little bit more naturalism, just a little bit more of that special sauce that brings me closer to reality. Whereas the DS100 does have that slight little bit of coldness to it. And so it's a little bit leaning cold versus the periodic audio Rhodium. The Rhodium has just a little bit more naturalism, and the Lav Audio DS100 has a little bit more of that analytical cold side to it. Next drive, Spectra X. Now this is about double the price tag, and the Spectra X is going to be more warm. It's a little bit more detailed, definitely has more power to it, but I really do enjoy the Spectra X a lot. I find that the Spectra X has a very natural sound to it. It is a little bit lush and rounded in its presentation, but it does sound a little bit more pleasing than the DS100, as the DS100 is a little more cold. The Hibi FC3. Now the Hibi FC3 is a very natural sounding DAC amp, and it has a lot of capabilities, does MQA and DSD, has a little bit more power than the DS100. It is smaller, has volume controls just like the DS100, but I find that the controls of the Hibi are a little bit more clunky and a little easier to get bumped in pockets. But I do find that the Hibi has a little bit more of a natural tone to it. It's about the same when it comes to detail retrieval and resolution as the Lav Audio, but tonality wise it's a little more pleasing as it's not quite as cold. The X-Duo Link version 2, now this is a 3.5 version, has easier buttons to use, play, pause, volume up and down. This has a lot more power than the DS100, and it's not quite as easy to fit in a pocket as the cable tends to be a little bit more stiff, and it is a little bit longer, not by much, but I find that I was touching the buttons more on the X-Duo Link V2. Sound wise they're very similar. The V2 does have slightly warmer tint to it, just a little bit more naturalism, but also is not quite as separated out between instruments and vocalists. ADV access port light, not as powerful, but also has a lot warmer of a sound signature, very lush and very analog type of sound with the ADV. The DS100 definitely is a step up from the access port light. The discontinued Venture Electronics Audyssey HD. Audyssey HD is a little bit more on the natural side of things versus the DS100, but they're pretty even on everything else. It's just got a little bit more of that naturalism special sauce that makes it sound realistic, not as cold and brittle. The original X-Duo Link, this is a very cold sound with a slight warmth in the bass, not as defined and not as resolving as the DS100. And overall I find the DS100 just to be more pleasing and a better overall product. And then the Razer DAC amp. Now the Razer DAC amp is very similar to the periodic audio Rhodium in how it sounds, with just a little bit more warmth. And I find that the Razer amp is a little bit more pleasant to listen to than the Lav Audio, but not quite as analytical. And so if I'm looking for a little bit more details, a little bit more critical listening, I'm going to lean towards the DS100. If I want to just chill and relax, I'm going to look at the Razer DAC amp. Lav Audio DS100. Yeah, I like this a lot. Does a really good job, pairs with all IEMs for the most part. And if you need a little extra power, just get yourself something like that, the Topping NX7. Highly recommended DS100, but I'm going to stick with my periodic audio Rhodium, as it is, in my opinion, a little bit better performer for the price and has a little bit more of the reference sound I'm looking for. It's been Dave, the Honest Audiophile. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Speaking of next video, somewhere on screen, subscription links, notification bells. If you haven't already, check those off. And then don't forget to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the video. Also, check out the links down below. There's all kinds of information down there that you can find regarding music recommendations, gear tier lists, all kinds of information. Also, there's ways that you can connect with the channel, follow the channel, support the channel. All that kind of stuff is down below. Don't forget to enjoy the music, and honesty is the best policy.